Gold is one of the cheapest liquids on this list. Now stick with me, because it sounds wrong. If you could somehow melt gold down and pour it like water at today's price of about $4,100 an ounce, a single gallon of liquid gold would cost you roughly $9.7 million. That should be an insane number. By the end of this video, it's going to sound like a discount. Because somewhere on this list is a liquid measured out in micrograms, priced at over $4 million a single dose. And when you actually run that number out to a full gallon, it doesn't just beat the most expensive natural substance on the planet. It leaves it in the dust. So we're going to count down 10 of the most expensive liquids in the world. And then, right at the end, we're going to break the entire ranking with one number that almost nobody puts on these lists. Let's get into it. We'll start close to home. You are currently carrying around a liquid worth roughly $1,500 a gallon, and you didn't even have to buy it. Whole blood itself isn't sold on the open market in most countries, but once it's donated, it has to be tested for disease, separated into plasma, platelets, and red cells, stored at exact temperatures, and shipped under strict chain of custody. That processing is what actually drives the price, not the liquid itself. So the next time someone tells you blood is thicker than water, you can tell them it's also worth about 375 times more per gallon. Here's one that's sitting in your house right now. Consumer Reports has tested brand name inkjet cartridges and found prices ranging from about $13 to $95 an ounce. Do the math across a full gallon, and a typical cartridge lands around $2,700. Some premium HP cartridges have priced out closer to $38,000 a gallon. Why? Printers are sold at razor-thin margins, sometimes at a loss because manufacturers make their money on the ink. And that ink isn't just colored water. It's specialized pigment, anti-clog chemistry, and on some cartridges, an entire print head built into the container. You've probably complained about the price of gas. You've never once complained about the actual most expensive liquid in your house. Perfume earns its spot the honest way through pure brand value. A bottle of Chanel No. 5 works out to somewhere around $26,000 a gallon, built from rare floral oils, decades of marketing, and a name that alone can double the price of a liquid. But that number moves depending on which bottle and concentration you're pricing. Go up to something like Victor and Rolf's Flower Bomb Haute Couture, and the per-gallon price climbs past $180,000. Perfume proves something the rest of this list backs up again and again. Sometimes the price isn't about what's in the bottle. It's about what people believe is in the bottle. This one used to be a lot higher, and most videos on this topic haven't caught up. For years, insulin was the go-to example of a liquid priced almost like a crime. Older lists still quote numbers as high as $100,000 a gallon. But in 2023 and 2024, Eli Lilly and Novo Nordisk both slashed their list prices by up to 75%, and Novo Nordisk cut even more products at the start of this year. A 10-milliliter vial of Novolog now lists at $72.34. Run that out to a gallon, and insulin costs around $27,000. Still expensive for something your body needs to survive, just no longer one of the most dramatic numbers on the internet. This is where things stop being about luxury and start being about biology doing something no lab can fully replace. Horseshoe crab blood is blue, and it clots instantly around bacterial toxins. That single property makes it essential for testing nearly every vaccine and intravenous drug before it reaches a hospital. Collectors bleed the crabs, then release them back into the ocean. The going rate works out to around $60,000 a gallon. A synthetic alternative exists now, and it could cut demand for the real thing by up to 90%. But for now, an animal that survived 400 million years is still propping up modern medicine. Here's where even the experts can't agree with each other, which makes it a perfect example of why this whole topic gets messy. Because LSD is active in doses as small as 100 micrograms, a single gallon theoretically contains close to 38 million doses. Price that out using current potency estimates, and you land around $123,000 a gallon. But other estimates, built on older wholesale gram prices from the early 2000s, put the number closer to $3.8 million a gallon. That's a 30 times difference for the same liquid. Why the gap? There's no stock exchange for an illegal drug. Every number is an estimate built on secondhand pricing, which is exactly why you should be suspicious anytime a list gives you one clean figure for this one. A king cobra releases about half a gram of venom in a single bite. Multiply that out, and a full gallon works out to around $153,000. Researchers want it for a reason that sounds almost backwards. Buried inside the venom is a protein that's shown promise as a painkiller, reportedly up to 20 times stronger than morphine. So the same substance built to kill is being studied to relieve pain. Getting it means finding a trained handler willing to milk one of the most dangerous snakes on the planet, which is its own kind of expensive. Now we leave venom and ink behind completely, because this is where the numbers stop being about chemistry and start being about pure obsession. In March of 2026, a single 750 milliliter bottle of 1945 Romanée-Conti sold for $812,500 at Acker's La Pole auction, smashing the previous world record. That's one bottle. Convert that to a full gallon and you get just over $4.1 million. Only 600 bottles of this vintage were ever made, right at the end of a war, from vines that were uprooted shortly after. You're not paying for wine at that point. You're paying for the fact that this exact liquid can never be made again. If wine can hit $4 million a gallon, what does whiskey do when it's had 60 years and one of the rarest labels in the world behind it? In November of 2023, a bottle of the Macallan Valerio Adami, 1926, aged 60 years, sold at Sotheby's for $2,734,000, a figure confirmed by Guinness World Records as the most expensive whiskey ever sold at auction. Only 40 bottles of this exact whiskey were ever produced. Convert the sale price to a gallon, and you land at almost $15 million. That's not a typo. $15 million for a liquid you could pour into a single kitchen jug. And here it is, the number that shows up at the top of almost every one of these lists. Deathstalker Scorpion Venom at close to $39 million a gallon. One milking from a Deathstalker produces about 2 milligrams of venom. Filling a single gallon would take roughly 2.6 million individual extractions, each one done by hand, from one of the most venomous scorpions on the planet. Buried in that venom is a compound called chlorotoxin, which binds specifically to certain brain tumor cells, helping surgeons see exactly where cancer ends and healthy tissue begins. Worth being honest with you here, I couldn't find the original invoice behind that $39 million figure. It's repeated everywhere, but the math behind it, at least, holds up. So it earns the top spot, fair and square, except we're not actually done. In March of 2024, a gene therapy called Lenmeldy became the single most expensive drug ever approved, priced at $4.25 million for one dose. Here's the part nobody puts on these lists. According to its own FDA prescribing information, that entire dose is contained in somewhere between 10 and 160 milliliters, depending on the child's weight. That's smaller than a soda can, and in some cases smaller than a shot glass. Run $4.25 million out to a full gallon at that volume, and you get a number between $100 million and $1.6 billion a gallon. That's not a typo either. Scorpion venom didn't get dethroned by something rarer or more dangerous. It got dethroned by modern medicine, using the exact same math every other liquid on this list was measured with. Nobody frames it that way because nobody buys medicine by the gallon. But the number is real, and it's sitting right there in the paperwork. So here's where that leaves us. We started this video with gold at $9.7 million a gallon, thinking that was as high as this could go. We're ending it with a children's medicine that, gallon for gallon, is worth more than gold, wine, whiskey, and scorpion venom combined. If a video like this is your kind of rabbit hole, there's a lot more where this came from. Subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.